Megan.
I'm Kellen.
I'm Erin.
We have Kat Biddle, who's our evaluator from Penn State University, and Nate from the Department of Health, huge supporters of this work.
So we're going to welcome each school, so when we announce your school, you can give a little shout out, and then we'll give you a round of applause for attending and being willing to change your school for the better.
So a round of applause for Troy.
Twinfield. Is this way?
Yeah.
Here? Okay. Georgia.
Yay!
We have St. Fairfax.
Yay!
All right. Brentfield.
We're here.
All right. So we're going to start in with an icebreaker activity, which is asset bingo. So in the right hand of your folder, you have a bingo sheet, and it's just to get everyone moving and you get to know some other people around the room that you'll be working with all day. So you can only get one person's signature twice on your whole sheet. So we're going to go up above. So bring a pen or a marker or pencil with you. And anytime that you and someone else have something in common, you'll have them sign that box. Does anyone have any questions?
Any November birthdays?
I think, wait. Do you play music orchestra?
Yes.
There we go.
Can you speak a foreign language?
Not really.
Have you ever been on the TV news or on the radio?
Yeah.
Does anyone have a really interesting fact they want to share, first of all?
That they learned about somebody else.
I learned that Rachel's unique skill is writing.
I learned that Jen Lilly went to Argentina.
I learned that Sherry knows Mini-Me.
I learned that Jacob draws a circle in the same way as I do.
All right, so some of these assets we're going to visit later and review, but for now we're going to go back to our chairs and take a quick pretest.
Throughout the day, you're going to be going through levels of understanding what you're doing here, what your work is all about, but it sure all centers around something, a survey that you all took called the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. In Vermont, I think it was over 13,000 middle school students took this survey last year. And what usually happens to this survey, because it's been given for years and years and years, what usually happens is that you spend your time taking this survey, and it happens all through high school every other year, and the data comes back, a nice neat report, and 9 out of 10 times, often I would say even more than that, it's analyzed by maybe an adult in the school or two, by a few people who are interested, and rarely in Vermont, rarely in the nation, do you, who took that survey, who live the life that's reflected in those numbers, ever get to see that data, ever get to see what your peers as a whole group said about your lives and have an opportunity to say what matters and then do something about it. And that's going to be your work today. And it's going to be the work for the rest of the year, really, as it relates to this project. That is the YRBS, and it looks at things like personal safety, drug, alcohol, and tobacco use. It looks at what parents and community members feel about young people and about use of drugs and alcohol, body image, nutrition, those sorts of things. So you're going to be getting into levels of that during the day, but that's just the big frame of what today is about and your work is going to be about. I just want to introduce Kate O'Neill. Kate is from the Agency of Education. She has run the YRBS initiative for 5 years, but it was about 5 years ago when she was at a national meeting that Kate made a statement that you should be analyzing this data, not just adults. And she set aside money in Vermont, which was pretty unprecedented, to be able to support this work for 5 years. And it's grown and grown and grown. So I think we owe Kate a huge round of applause.
And our goal is to promote the well-being of young people in your school by increasing the positive choices and decreasing the negative choices they make. Everybody in their folder has a newsletter. And in the newsletter, it kind of reflects other schools' goals and how they achieved their goals. So it kind of gives a summary of what they did over time, and that's what you guys will soon be doing. So we'd like you guys to read the newsletter and then pick out like 1 or 2 things that stands out to you. So you guys have about 5 minutes to do that right now. So now what you're going to do is within your table, you're going to talk about the one thing that stood out to you and explain to your group why it stood out to you, which we'll call a group conversation. So just have a group discussion and you guys will have another 5 minutes for this.
There's 26%. That's a lot.
Because if somebody didn't make a comment, then somebody would never want to do that if they thought they were fine.
I mean, like, plus girls are always talking about, like, their weight, and if there's, like, some girls that are, like, born tiny, like, their bone structure, they get self-conscious because of the size of theirs.
Harwood, yeah, is a pretty big school, so, I mean, to reach out to, like, 26% of that entire school would be pretty hard.
I heard a lot of really good discussion, which is always good. And we want to enforce that with this newsletter, we want you guys to realize that this will soon hopefully be you. An example is Megan and I did the same exact thing when we were in middle school, and then now it's our school that's on the front cover. So we already went through this whole process, and we want you guys to go through the whole process. So while you're reviewing this, like, be aware that, like, try to put it in perspective for your school, because it is possible and it's a really good experience. But now we'd like to go around and have each group share what they talked and the main points, just a brief summary. So if you guys could choose one person from your group.
We talked a lot about how we think that the anonymous Dropbox idea for bullying is a really good idea and definitely something that we could do in our school.
Good.
At 26, so girls skip lunch.
We talked about the percentage of people being offered illegal drugs on school property and comparing that to parents' workshops that were being held.
Thank you.
The 95% of students thought it would be wrong for someone their age to smoke cigarettes.
And when I was walking around, I think you noticed something really important, that the highlighting of strengths is equally as important as noting the challenges. And you'll hear that through the day, that the more we have balance with strengths and concerns, and the more we always start with strengths, the more people can listen and join with us and feel empowered to do the work.
So we're going to refer back to our goal today, which is to promote the well-being of young people in your school by increasing positive choices and decreasing the negative choices. So we want you to just discuss some things with your table, like what excites you about this work, what you might see as a challenge with this work, what you're looking to get out of this work. So talk to your table about what you guys might see in the future and what you would like to see in the future.
And then 82% of people wearing seatbelts.
Seatbelt's a good one.
Yeah, the seatbelt is not
That's an easy one. What other things are important about doing this work? Why is it important?
To help out your community and
It's
the kids at your
important
school
that we can
to
improve
the
the
message
situations
Yeah.
with the drugs and the alcohol use and all that.
and there are a lot of good ways to
And I think what's nice what you said, Abby, community too. This is bigger than our schools.
Can you share one more time, we'll whip around, we'll go in the opposite direction this time, one thing that really excites you about this work?
We found it like pretty exciting that a majority of people think that it's wrong to do drugs and drink and whatnot. And it's also pretty exciting that we can do something to try to higher that number.
Well, I think what kind of interests me is just kind of the challenge of it all.
Yeah.
And trying to reach people. I like challenges.
On your table, you guys have envelopes. So in the envelopes, there's going to be like a set of numbers, and then there's going to be facts. So it might say percentage of students that have drank alcohol in the last week. And then there's going to be like 72, 10, and 11. And you have to match it up with the one that you think it matches with. So we'll give you guys the answers after, but right now I want to see how well you can do it, how well you think you know your school.
So about 3 or 4 per group. You have 2 envelopes, so it works best if you're clumped in about no more than 4 people. So split your table in half and each take an envelope and each do your own activity, your own matching.
So percent of students who think
Why don't we should we read them all?
We'll just do
Okay, percent of students who think it is wrong or very wrong for kids their age to smoke marijuana.
So what are you thinking?
Like 46 or 48.
I'm going with 82%.
I was thinking 61.
With 82?
52.
Okay, so now the exciting part. I'm going to give you guys the answers.
And when you see the numbers, don't worry about reshuffling or anything, and don't worry about being right on target or not. This is just to get us thinking, knowing what's on the survey and thinking about it. So we'll say a number and you can cross-check. We'll give you a minute to think about whether you were consistent with that or not.
So, first, the percent of students who have ever tried smoking cigarettes is 13%.
Right next to the stairway?
Next is percent of students who think that cigarettes are easy to get is 32%.
Guys, you're so good.
Okay, percent of students who reported binge drinking in the past 30 days is 4%. Alright, percent of students who think that kids their age risk great harm for having 5+ drinks, ice, or...
Oh, is that a typo?
Yeah, that's okay. Each weekend is 52%. The percent of students who reported ever using marijuana is 8%. Now this is a positive one coming up. So the percent of students who think it is wrong or very wrong for kids their age to smoke marijuana is 91%. So that's good. The percent of students who have ever been bullied at school is 48%. And the percent of students who said that they always wear their seatbelt while riding in a car is 71%. Percent of students who had physical education classes at least once per week is 82%. The percent of students who ate breakfast every single day in the past week is 46%. And then last, the percent of students who agree or strongly agree that their teachers really care about them and give them a lot of encouragement is 61%.
Oh, goodness.
Most every activity we do today are activities that you should be thinking, do I want to do this back at home? Did I enjoy this activity? Did it give me information? Did it draw me into this work? And we're going to give you examples that Megan and Michelle have actually lived into, but be thinking of as kind of a critical consumer here, what did I like that during the course of the day that really helped me understand the work. And just to clarify, I don't think I was so clear in the beginning, this is statewide data from 2011. So it's the big Vermont aggregate. And on your table, the Department of Health was good enough to supply us with their highlights. And these questions came from these highlights, actual questions and data from that survey. So just so you know, this is another tool, and the Department of Health has these if you ever want to use them to introduce people to the survey at large.
What is your team's job at your school? So step one would be today. You attend this training and you think about all of the data and what you want to bring back to your community and learn to organize a YRBS retreat. So the analysis day retreat, we did this at our school, and what you want to do is we shot for 30 students, but that was because we have a larger high school, so some of you guys who have smaller schools or bigger schools, you can shoot for as many students as you want, but the main key to really having a day retreat that is successful is that you want to make sure you get students from all walks of life. Like you want athletes, you want theater program students, you want jazz band students, you want students from every single aspect of your school to go to this day retreat. And so what we did is we picked our favorite activities from today's training and we did them with the students at our retreat, and we explained to them all of this data. So you will be doing that at your school. Hopefully in early December you guys will have it all organized and pick a spot to do it where there's room, and you will bring all of it back to your school.
Right now you're going over Vermont's data, but when you do this with your school, it's all about your school. So it's easier to get a handle on it, and you also have like a bunch of different students, like Megan said, from a bunch of different groups. So you have a lot of different perspectives, and when it's all brought together, it makes a big
Yeah,
difference.
because you're identifying the strengths and concerns in your school. You will get school data so that it's not looking at all students from the state, but just the students at your school.
Step 3 is to conduct a dialogue night. So we'll just use us as an example again. What we did is we invited our community, we invited the elementary schools, the middle school, and then our high school, and anybody could attend. And kind of a way that we got people in is we had ice cream, which everybody loves ice cream, so we had an ice cream party pretty much. And with this, we did a bunch of activities with the community, such as the matching game, and they had to do it on their own, but it was our school data again. And this gave everybody that's not necessarily inside the school, a lot of times it's a lot easier for teachers to look at it and be like, I know what's going on in our school, or at least have a better idea. But when a parent steps in and says, wow, like 52% of kids are getting bullied at this school, like that's an issue, they want to do something about it. Or a lot of times it opened eyes for, at least at ours, the ones that were like, 71% of students think that it's really easy to get alcohol. Well, the parents were like, well, that's on my shoulders because it's like at our house. So it's really good to let your community know what you're doing, and they get super involved, and it's a lot of fun. So that would be the next step.
And then also at our dialogue night, I just want to say that it wasn't just teachers and parents. We had like school board members coming. We had administrators there. We even invited our town, police station. So we had 2 officers there. So invite as many people that you think will make a positive impact. And then a great suggestion I would say is at the end of our dialogue night, we had some brainstorming sheets, and we asked the community what they would do to change our school, which gave us some great ideas on how to improve our school from an outside perspective.
We also got the community to be aware of this because, we had posters inside the school, but we wanted parents to be aware of it. So at our school, basketball is a big deal. And on the back of the rosters and inside the rosters, we made like a few little fun facts, like we put a few of the statistics on the paper, and then it would say, come to our community dialogue and give all the information. So that's how we got community members to also be aware of what we were doing.
This will be conducted with the group that you gather for your day retreat, and this should take place hopefully in early February if you run everything on time.
Step 4 is deciding, so you've identified your strengths the same way as the schools did in the newsletter. What are your concerns? And then you've decided what actions you want to take. The number of strategies are endless, and it's totally up to you to create what fits for you to address these challenges based on your input, your school community, and what happens at Dialogue Night. So this is the story of what happened down at Windsor High School. They had, one of the questions on your survey is the number of students that report that they do not feel that they matter to people in their community. And their number was 48%. Almost half of students say they don't feel like they matter to people in their community, and that deeply concerned them. So what they did was create this was huge, and it was when you walked into the school, it was massive in their front foyer, and they asked people to write, like, why is this happening and what can we do about it? So it was a way to engage the whole community, the whole student body, adults and students, in gaining more ideas, and then they moved forward with that. But there's just an endless amount of opportunity for you to creatively become part of health classes. That's happened often. You join the health teacher and can be a messenger and lead some of these activities or provide information. They've had brought plays around bullying to schools as a way to educate the school community, because that community really was drawn to drama. There's all sorts of things. So that'll be up to you, what you do. And that's February through spring. So you'll be working on this every week to roll this out.
Okay, so finally step 5 would be to reflect, celebrate, and share your good work in the 2013/14 newsletter and plan for next year. So once you guys do all your work, you can be in our newsletter, which you've all seen and which Michelle is on the cover of. So all the great work you do will be shared nationally. We work all over the place. And then we really just want you to celebrate the positives and everything, even if it's small steps, you've still made progress.
We're going to have a newsletter of about 19 Vermont middle schools doing awesome things. And I can tell you that New Mexico is going to be really anxious to see this newsletter. I shared this one with them, and it was hugely influential in them being drawn into the work, as will yours. So, and you'll then get all those ideas to take forward to the next year.
In the left-hand side of your folder, there's a white sheet. So we are going to do meaning making of the newsletter and the information you've just learned. The first box, you're going to jot down what you learned and what stuck with you through the process. And then in the second box, you're going to write down how you can apply what you've learned and how you're going to bring it back to your school. So this piece of paper you're going to fill out throughout the day so that you will remember everything that you did today and how you plan on using it.
This is also a good place where you can write down if the activity that we did is something that you'd want to incorporate in your activities.
So if you guys just want to take a couple minutes and share like what you personally wrote down with your group and your school and what you want to bring back.
The newsletter that I learned a lot of new statistics about drugs and safety, and that we could create banners or host a dialogue night and we could put posters up around our school. And for the matching game, I learned that a lot of the statistics were higher than I thought, and that we could play that at a dialogue night and see what our community thinks.
We're going to do a quick energizer so you guys don't get too antsy and stiff in your chairs. So we're going to do the great finger grab. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your left hand out flat, and you're going to put your right hand like this on top of the person's hand next to you. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to say grab, and the person is going to try and grab your finger. You want to try and grab the other person's finger while raising your finger so the person next to you can't get yours. So we'll do a couple rounds. Is everyone ready? All right, 1, 2, 3. Ready? Again. 1, 2, 3, grab. All right, you guys can go back to your seats.
When you're designing your day, because you're going to be designing a whole day for your group that you're going to recruit to analyze their data, be thinking about energizers because it's too hard to sit for extended lengths. So we'll give you a couple of them, but I bet you have some of your own. So be thinking about what you like for energizers here and other things you'd like to spice in that would make it even better.
A really important part of your day and doing this at your school is that you want everyone to feel safe and not targeted in the environment, because you want people to share maybe their personal experiences and you don't want them to feel like you are targeting them in any way. So we're going to go over a few ground rules. I strongly encourage you to go over these at your day retreat. We did, and it made for an awesome day. So the first one is going to be that one person speaks at a time. So if we want everyone to feel like they have a voice, so if we call on you or if you're in group work, try and have facilitators so that no one is not being heard.
Everybody in the room wants to see that everybody's agreeing to this. Otherwise, it's still not safe. So the system is.
If everyone agrees, you can put your thumb up. If you're kind of wishy-washy on the subject and you're unsure, you can go sideways. And if you disagree, you can give us a thumbs down. So on the first one person speaks at a time. If you all agree with that, you can give us all a great thumbs up.
Great.
All right.
Everyone listens while that person is talking with an open mind. You're supposed to have respect. And that goes a long way, because if you are trying to say something that's really important to you and you hear other people talking, then you get discouraged and you're like, oh, what I have to say obviously isn't important enough. So then you don't feel comfortable talking the next time. And we really want to hear everybody's opinions and what everybody has to say. So it's really important that if you do have something to say when somebody is talking, just wait and then say it after. That way everyone knows that you're respecting them. So if everyone agrees, thumbs up.
You may be listening to somebody who totally thinks differently than you. And the hardest thing, I think, through life that we have in terms of our listening is just saying, okay, I'm not going to judge that person. I'm going to be able to take in what they said, even though it may feel absolutely opposite of what I believe. Everybody who wants to talk will get a chance to speak, and Can I see thumbs for you, those who agree to live that? Great.
You may pass at any time if you don't wish to talk. Some people don't want to share their opinions on topics, which is fine. Thumbs up if everyone agrees with that one. All right.
Put-ups gladly accepted, no put-downs of self or others. So a constructive, safe, non-judgmental. Can I see thumbs?
The next one is focus on the issues, not the people. There's some situations where people will share stories with you, and they obviously don't want to feel judged. They're just trying to share what happened to them. So try to focus on what they're trying to tell you rather than being like focusing on the person and judging the person.
You're going to be looking at data, and it can be pretty natural for a participant to say, oh, this teacher by name, or I bet it's these students by name. And as soon as you start allowing names to be shared, it is wicked unsafe. Because who knows how long it might be that your name might be mentioned at the next table. So it's so important when you get to set ground rules that when you say focus on issues, not people, to clarify this is not ever going to be a place where we hear names, but we are going to talk about hard issues deeply. We're not going to tag it to certain people or certain groups.
So that goes along with the next one. Oh, yeah. Give me a thumbs up for the last one. Okay, so then we also want to respect confidentiality. So if someone is telling you a story and you're like, oh, I know who that was, you're not going to say their name. You're just going to leave it with the story and the issue at hand because we don't want anyone to feel unsafe. So just completely leave names out once again. And if someone does share a personal story with you that in a class or in your group, don't go and tell all your friends about it. They probably shared it with you and your group to try and solve it and not to get it around the whole school. So let's leave that with yourself. If someone tells you something, keep it to yourself. So can we get a thumbs up for that one? Okay.
On subject, this can go 1,000 different directions, but try to keep bringing it back and ask the group to bring it back themselves. You'll do that as facilitators, but if everybody shares that responsibility, it's a whole lot easier.
And the last is be honest with yourself and others.
Okay, so to bring back all of this and focus again, can you guys fill out the meeting-making sheet one more time with ground rules and what you enjoy about them and how you want to incorporate them into your work? So we'll take about 5 minutes for that.
And just be thinking of the context. One, your data analysis with your peers, and the second dialogue night, you would do this at both. Picture that as you think about how you would do it and make it meaningful.
We want to make sure that everyone so far is understanding what they're going to be doing when they come back to their school. So students and teachers talk. Hopefully you guys will understand any questions you have your teachers can answer. If not, there's Post-it notes on your table. You can write down questions that you're still unsure about, and then the facilitators will look at them at lunch and see if there's any that we need to address. And then after you guys discuss, we'll take a couple questions and hopefully try and answer them quickly. So we'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes.
What's our job?
Our job is to inform the community and our school about the youth behavior survey.
Okay, great. I think it's kind of too bringing the community into the school, maybe, because we never do that.
Yeah. So, well, because we have a lot of school events, but we don't have a lot where we invite like the whole community, even people who like, don't have kids in the school.
You sound like you had a great idea, Jordan.
You know, like when we have that color day, color...
Spirit Week,
yeah.
right? Spirit Week.
Yeah, and we have that
do something at Spirit Week.
When we all make our posters.
Wow.
We should do a presentation then.
Yeah, at Spirit Week.
Just like a short thing at Spirit Week. That'd be fun.
Does anyone have a question? No? All right. Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you, guys.
We've sort of tried to set the stage with what your job is, giving you some activities. The newsletter probably wouldn't be one that you would use in your retreats. It was to get you oriented. But certainly the matching game was one activity that you might be thinking you could use back at home. So hopefully at this point you're feeling relatively clear. And as we now pace through activities, we're modeling, often in condensed form, what you'll be doing back at home. So you will be us. More specifically, you will be Michelle and Megan within a month. So just be thinking of that as we go along.
The developmental assets are the positive things in which we want to work on.
In this work, we feel it's really important to name our strengths, and then we go into things that are challenges, and when we try to find solutions, we go right back to our strengths to say, what can we do more of? What's our foundation piece that's good and vital and can be a resource for us to address these problems? A national organization in Minneapolis called Search Institute said communities that are trying to change themselves for the better, where young people want to strengthen their communities, or adults in those communities want that, they need a roadmap. So they went and they looked at research, huge volumes of research, and they found 40 things, 40 qualities of a school or community that really mattered. The more you have of these, the more young people wake up in the morning and say, this is a great place to be. This is the school I want to be in. So the more of these, the better. So when you go back into your communities and share this, you can do it with confidence that these 40 things really do matter because it came from a ton of research. And I think you'll see that they just make logical sense as well.
So on your table, there's a sheet that looks like this. There should be a stack of 8 for all of you to go around. So it's really hard to read up here, but as you can see, the positive things, the positive behaviors in students, as the amount of assets go up, the positive behaviors also go up. So exhibits leadership, there's more assets. Diversity, more assets. Succeeds in school, the more assets, the better they do. And then as there are less assets, high-risk behaviors increase. So alcohol use, there's very low assets. Violence, there's a low amount of assets. And illegal drug use is a low amount of assets. So what we're going to do is we're going to split up into groups, and you guys are going to analyze the assets on your own and how you currently have positive assets in your school. So there's 2 kinds of assets. One is internal, which are personal assets and things you can control on your own, and the other are external, and they have to do with your environment, your community, how you interact with your parents, how you interact with your teachers. So in your folder, there's a sheet with all of the assets on it.
The cover is an introduction to the YRBS project, and it's the 3rd page.
We're also going to split you guys up in groups, so you're not going to work with your school anymore. We want all the schools to share what's positive about their school, and then maybe that will help other schools as well, because they can be like, oh, you guys have a student council, it affects your school in this way, blah, 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 and then maybe that's something that you'll consider.
You can write anywhere on your web a positive that you feel is in your school. For an example, student feeling empowered and having a voice. So maybe, for example, like Michelle mentioned, you guys may have a great student council where the students have a voice, or if students want meeting, you guys may have a community service club in your school. So anything that fits into your asset, which is described on this sheet of paper, you're going to write down on your web.
In your groups, you're going to choose somebody that's a facilitator, a timekeeper, and a record keeper. The facilitator is going to be like the leader of your group, and you're going to try to keep your group on topic. And the timekeeper is obviously going to keep track of time. And the record keeper is going to be the one that writes everything down.
So we have about 8 minutes.
33, interpersonal competence. A young person has empathy, sensitivity, and friendship skills. Do you see that in your school?
We do, well, it's Kelso's Choices, and it's just this poster and kind of a curriculum that we do that teaches mostly little kids many ways to solve their conflicts non-violently.
So non-violent conflict resolution skills?
Yeah.
Was there another one?
Yeah, there's one more. It was personal power. It's young person feels he or she has control over things that happen to me.
My school,
at the end of each year, they give us a packet of choice classes we can take, and we fill that out over the summer, give it back to them, and we usually get them the choice classes we want.
Our school, we have student ambassadors who are sort of like a link between students and the teachers, and so students will come up to the student ambassadors and tell them their concerns about the school or what they think could be better in the school, what could change, and then the student ambassadors relay it to the teachers and the principals.
Start with group number 1, please. So that is the support group. So if one person could come up and stand by Megan and I and present, that would be great.
You can just read them and then just pick maybe 1 or 2 that you want to like go into detail. You don't have to go into detail on every single one.
And the variables in support, it's family support, positive family communication, other adult relationships, caring neighborhood, caring school climate, and parent involvement in schooling.
Technology, which was in all of them, which included iPads, computers, anything, really. After school programs, so in Northfield we have robotics, we've got after school homework help, we've got basically everything that you could imagine. And in Montpelier they have a smaller selection but still a selection, and in Fairfax they have about the same.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, thank you. The next is constructive use of time. So if you guys just step up. And the variables for that is creative activities, youth programs, religious community, and time at home.
Some schools have something called the Green Team, which is they find ways to save electricity and make the world like better with economics and stuff like that. There's also something called DI, which is Destination Imagination. And I guess they just put together a bunch of different like competitive things and have different schools compete against each other.
So those were all the external assets, and now we're going to go to the internal assets. So the commitment to learning is next. And the variables for that is achievement, motivation, school engagement, homework, bonding to school, and reading for pleasure.
After school programs, CAL and CAL Passes, and end of the year awards.
CAL Passes stands for Challenge of the Week. And a lot of schools had small awards for good deeds. Like I think it was Northfield that had doubloons. And Montpelier has Gator Prides. Yeah.
And last, we have positive identity. And that's personal power, self-esteem, a sense of purpose, and positive view of personal future.
Our guidance counselors in all 4 of our schools had proven that they were told that they helped out students a lot with like both like future guidance and like just what they did in general really could boost a student's self-esteem as well as like future what they wanted to do in the future.
It would be great if you could just look at this web. Think about what you just did and just talk amongst yourselves. What's the meaning of doing this work? What was it like to do it? And do that for a couple minutes, and then we'll get some ideas back from you as you, I think, consider this as a whole.
Learned a lot about other schools, like
What
I
methods
guess
that
you guys do a lot of like rewards and stuff. My school, we don't do like any of that, like points, nothing like that.
So the ideas that we've heard, we can definitely bring back to our schools and bring up the idea to teachers and stuff, so we can have.
And if anybody can give us a sense of what it was that you decided, why this activity, what did it mean to you, and what thoughts came to mind as you reflected on it? Yeah.
Well, it's good because we can all look at the different things that other schools do and bring it back to our own school to make it a better community for us.
That's an awesome part of this activity in this setting, which I know that there's a benefit is across schools. So it's totally true in this setting. You'll be doing it just within your school, but you may find surprising things and perspectives even within your own school.
To recognize what we do in our school, that people are trying to make it better.
Yeah. Think of looking at that web and it was filled with only your school's ideas, because that's what you'll end up with. And what that feels like when you see them in all their glory in that web. Exactly.
At our school, we made a web like this at our student dialogue day retreat, and then we put it on the wall at our dialogue night for parents and community members, and we covered it up with white sheets of paper. And then we had our community make another web, and then we compared them, and it was really interesting to see what the students feel the positives of the school are, and then what the communities feel the positives of the schools are. So I encourage you to do one maybe at your day retreat and at your dialogue night if you like this activity. Our group voted on the activity, so.
Sometimes you can bring yours and just have adults look at what you put and add to it. So you still have one web, but it gets bigger because you have more perspectives in it. That's another way to use the web. It's so powerful to see such goodness as your starting point. You will be creating and designing your own days, but just know this is really, as Michelle and Megan shared, when we talked about this, we said, should we do this again? And they said, absolutely. So painting making, do you want to pull out your sheet now, if you would please, that has the columns? And just try to make sense of what we just did with the asset web before we move on.
They don't have their papers.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay, quick energizer, guys. Everybody can stand up? Okay, are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. We've introduced what we would suggest as a beginning of your retreat, ground rules, and then an asset web, a way to look at strengths. Now, in your retreat, as we're modeling here, we want you to be able to move to your data. You will have like a packet with pages and pages of data.
It's like 80 pages.
Yeah, a little shorter for middle school, but it's a lot of pages. And your job is to have a group analyze that, come up with 3 strengths and 3 concerns within about an hour and a half. The hardest thing for anybody is to put aside your assumptions and beliefs about what those numbers are. Put aside your life experience and your choices and look at those numbers as if you were totally objective, and be willing to be surprised. Be willing to put those assumptions aside. It is the hardest thing to do, but it is our work as researchers, as analyzers of this information, to step outside of ourselves and do exactly that. So I encourage you to be thinking about that, because you're going to be looking at statewide data again, in the same format that you'll be looking at your data when you get it. And I would just ask you to be internally checking in with yourself. You know, can I get outside myself enough to see this number totally cleanly? And that's our job.
We're going to break up into groups, and you guys are going to identify strengths, concerns, and neutrals. So the strengths are things that you feel strongly about, that people should know that are a really good thing about your school. Like, for instance, in our school was that 75% of students eat breakfast. So we really wanted our community to know that we have a pretty healthy student body. And then, so you're going to identify the strengths, and then you're going to identify concerns, which are things you really want the community to know that need to be improved in your school and that you are working to improve them. And then you're going to identify things that are neutral, that are not notable strengths, but they're not notable concerns either. So you're not really going to focus on them, but they are there. You're not really focusing on them at the moment. So let's look at this data here. So this is how the data will come back to you in the survey. It'll be broken up for all the middle school students, which would be like the 48, and then per each grade, and then all the data is also broken up male and female. So you can really look at the group of students in which your concern is in. So this is a prime piece of data, so can you guys quickly discuss in like 2 minutes if you would think that this would be a concern or if this would be a strength of a school? So these are percents statewide.
So you can discuss that right now with your group.
Percentage of people who are getting bullied, and
That's definitely a problem. No.
Something that's interesting to point out is a lot of times when you look at the number, you think 48 and then you're like, oh my goodness, like that's so bad. But then you also have to switch it around to the positive side and think of like, well, this one's not the best example because it still is pretty bad. But 52% of kids aren't and don't feel this way. So for some of those, it will be a better example if it's like 13%. And you look at the 13% and it could be something serious. So you're like, oh my goodness, like this is horrible. We should not have 13%. And then you think of it on the positive side and you're like, all right, I guess it's not that bad after all. So just keep that in mind while you're doing this activity.
Okay. So if you identified this as a concern, which hopefully you did, you're going to fill out a, you're going to mark it as a concern, because like this is the question, and then you're going to write a little comment like this one, which says 48% is too high. It's pretty equal for males and females, and it's a little change over time from grade to grade, because as you noticed, it was about 50% in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So students aren't improving. Like some people might say, oh, it was just a transition to 6th grade or something like that, but they weren't improving through the 3 years, so that's really a concern. So you're going to break up into groups, and each group has this sheet of paper, and you're going to mark based on the data if it's a strength, concern, or neutral, and then you want to write down why it's a strength, concern, or neutral.
No, I think it'd just be there because it could be
Better,
less.
a lot better.
It could be a lot better.
What was it?
So it's not necessarily a strength, but it's not a weakness either.
Look at your data. See if there's anything else that jumps out of you there as well.
These numbers were just for your school. Would you still see it as a strength, or would you put it more in a concern or neutral? You went a little bit further. This was one of our strengths.
Right. That means about one kid in each class. No, not even.
If somebody in the group number 1 wants to just stand up and read the question and then report back to us, that would be great.
But only read if it's a strength or a concern.
Yeah.
So if you identify what it is first, then Megan and I will know who's recorder, and then question and why.
Students who ever drank alcohol other than a few sips was about a quarter of the whole student body. We thought that was a concern. And more 8th graders, a third of 8th graders. So it's kind of as you get older, it seems like you're more likely to drink alcohol other than a few sips.
You would want to record your feeling that the trend of upward use is significant. So it goes up towards 8th grade. So keeping that level of detail on the why so people know you're thinking.
And then we also had a strength, which was students who smoked cigarettes in the past 30 days. Only 3% of students, so 97% of students have not smoked cigarettes in the past 30 days. So we thought that was really positive. It did seem like more 8th graders smoked cigarettes, more 7th graders and 6th graders, but it was really low in general, and we thought that was very positive.
Great, thanks.
Our first question was a concern, and it was students who report that it would be easy or very easy to get alcohol. It was easier for the 8th graders than the 7th and 6th graders to get alcohol, 40%.
Pretty amazing how accessible just about anything is. You'll have a ton more here of both concerns and strengths. And what you want to do is collapse it to 3 strengths and 3 concerns. And the great American way that we can do that is to give you everybody a vote in the room. There have been different methods for that talked about. Sometimes we used to use stickies, but then we realized that you're influenced too much by the stickies that are already there. So there's a standard voting sheet. There's a manual that has all of these pieces of paper, so you don't have to recreate these. But just from experience, the first thing you want to do is number these 1, 2, 3 in the same. You would start numbering 1, because when you get people writing their votes out versus a number, it can take you hours to figure out what the vote is. So if you number your sheets, then people they come up, they look them over, they individually decide what are the 3 things that I'm proudest about, that could be the answer to our challenges, and what are the 3 things that are most important that we can do something about for concerns. And they would just write the number down, and then you can tally it over lunch. You would be then tallying madly while everybody else is eating, and then when people come back, you'll be able to show them the analysis.
We're going to do a quick energizer. Everyone needs a pipe cleaner. So I'm going to read a story about the Wright family, and every time you hear the word right, you're going to pass your pipe cleaner to the right, and every time you hear the word left, you're going to pass your pipe cleaner to the left. Is everyone ready? All right. I'd like to tell you a story about Mr. and Mrs. Wright. One evening they were baking cookies, and Mrs. Wright suddenly called out, "Oh no, there is no flour left. You will need to go out to the store right now." "I can't believe you forgot to check the pantry," grumbled Mr. Wright. "It will only take 20 minutes if you come right back. Go to the corner of 1st and 2nd Streets and turn left at the stop sign. Then go to 45th Street and turn right, and the shop will be on your left." He turned left, but he couldn't remember where he had left his left. Suddenly he remembered that he had driven Mrs. Wright's car, and that his car was in the driveway at home, right where he had left it. He found his right car, opened the right, and put the flour right inside. Okay, we're going to do a silent dialogue. So upstairs, there's 9 questions. We're going to break up into the same 8 groups.
Whatever number you were for the analysis, you're going to go to that piece of paper. Circle around it, and in utter silence, you're going to read the statement or the question, and you're going to go into silent dialogue. It's like you're going to be talking to one another, but just through your writing. Complete silence.
You can answer somebody's writing too, so you can say your thought and then read, like if I was to read Megan's thought and then have a, like something I would say back to her, you just write it underneath it.
We'll tell you when to move. You'll be able to answer 8 different questions, and then we'll tell you what to do next after that. So clockwise, it looks like.
Yeah. Maybe think about 1 or 2 things you want to share about the question. And then you're just going to report it back to us.
So were there any trends or common themes that you saw among all of your comments? That would be one thing you might report on.
Or maybe one thing that stood out to you guys as a whole that somebody else wrote, or even some that one of you guys wrote.
Everyone seems to have tons of different ideas, and it's good that everyone's got something different to say. So it just keeps adding on to things we can bring back to our communities.
Be responsible.
Be a role model.
Help prevent bullying. Young people. Be an asset.
Holidays basically sum up, be the best that you can be.
Read the question first and then tell us about your poster. So can we start with number 1?
What are the major reasons young people don't make healthy choices?
And one of the most of what people wrote down is bad role model.
Yeah, they don't have good influences, and also peer pressure and trying to fit in and just not being comfortable with themselves.
Number 2.
How can young people support their peers to make good decisions? And the trend was really people were just like, be good, be responsible, be a role model. And we kind of just threw it together, and it's really just be a leader.
Again, you're going to be choosing activities to bring back home. So what was it like to do this? What would draw you to use this again? Or what didn't you like about it? And just take a couple minutes to talk about that in your group if you would, and we'll just do a quick feedback.
So what you're saying is you think kids would fool around doing this at school?
Yes.
Why are the kids at school different from you kids here, sitting here today?
Teach responsibility.
That kind of puts like responsibility. You want to like make your teachers feel proud.
If you did this at your school, what do you think? What kind of role modeling could you do for this?
An example.
Exactly.
What worked about it for you, or how might you tweak it when you take it home? Open up the floor.
Well, I like this activity, but I thought that it might have worked better if we talked about it, because I think that if like 3 people talk about it, you have 3 times the perspective, and the question, you'll be able to come up with a much better answer that really answers the question.
So the option of talking, you have many option points. Sometimes in groups there are people who are really comfortable talking and people who aren't. And if it can be a problem in that when you start talking, only a couple people really hold the floor. So this works well if you want to make sure that even the quiet people have a chance. So that would be a reason. You lose the richness of the dialogue, but you gain everybody's voice in it. So just think of pros and cons when you choose. Yeah.
We've done this a couple times in class, and a problem that arose, like the people would not be silent, and if you wrote something down, they would like, if you try to like answer it truthfully, they'd like laugh at you. So I think making sure it really stays silent and putting people in good groups is a really important thing.
If you were a facilitator and you saw that happening, maybe going back to the ground rules and saying, I need to help make this safe again, and making it safe means we're all silent. So thanks for being silent. So yeah, don't forget your ground rules as a way for you to facilitate and make that happen. Yeah, round of applause.
Now we're going to head back to our tables, and you can sit with your school group, that's okay. When you get down there, you're going to do your, what is it called, the meaning thing?
Yeah, making meaning.
Making meaning sheet. In your folder, there's a small evaluation with 3 questions. So if you guys could just complete that.
It's pink.
It's pink.
On the left.
In your folder, there's a yellow piece of paper that has a poem on it. I think it's on the left-hand side. So it's called Turning to One Another. I'm going to ask everyone in the room to read it along with me. It's a really great poem, and I encourage you guys to use it.
It says so much about the opportunities for you when you go home, about for you as an individual and you as a change agent in your school. So that's why we just, in that spirit, wanted to share it with you.
There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you never talk to. Be intrigued by the differences you hear. When Michelle and I attended this training, Helen showed this video and we loved it. And so we were like, Helen, you have to show the video. It's so good. It's so inspiring, and really cute.
I feel.
Do you feel alive?
I feel happy of myself.
I feel happy of yourself too. What do you got, any words of wisdom? What about for all the other kids trying to learn how to ride their bike? Can you say anything to them? some thumbs up.
Thumbs up, everybody!
All right.
For rock and roll!
But I wanted to, before everybody leaves, really honor Megan and Michelle for the work that they did, their facilitation. I think it's